This is Fandom Recipes. Middle-earth is one of my favorite fantasy worlds to live in. So today we are going to make my version of Lembas bread, the elvish waybread that arguably sustains the Fellowship throughout the majority of their adventuring.
Lembas. Elvish waybread.
This is a special elvish bread that first appears when the Fellowship have a brief respite in Lothlorien. The food was mostly in the form of very thin cakes, made of a meal that was baked a light brown on the outside, and the inside was the color of cream. At first, Gimli mistakes the Lembas bread for the dwarvish version of traveling fare, creme. But after a taste, he does admit that the flavor is better than the honey cakes of the Bjornings. The elves go on to say that the cakes will keep sweet for many, many days if they are left unbroken and left in their leaf wrappings. One will keep a traveler on his feet for a day of long labor. Or, as Legolas says in the movie,
one small bite is enough to fill the stomach of a grown man.
Now, as Tolkien doesn't give us a specific recipe for Lembas bread, we have to improvise. When I developed this recipe, there were 3 characteristics that I wanted to make sure made it into the finished product. First, given Gimli's comment, I wanted the predominant flavor to be honey. Second, I wanted to hold true to Tolkien's description of Lembas bread as very thin cakes. And 3, I wanted the finished product to somewhat resemble what we see in the movie, as that is how most fans are going to recognize it. With those 3 things in mind, I developed this recipe. These are the ingredients you need to make waybread fit for traversing Middle-earth. First, we're going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. Then we're going to start by mixing our dry ingredients together, our flour, baking soda, and salt. In a larger bowl, we're going to beat together our butter and sugar. I always use unsalted butter when I'm baking so that I can better control the amount of salt that goes into the finished product. And you can of course mix it by hand, but today we're going to opt for the KitchenAid hand mixer. Keep mixing on medium speed until the butter-sugar mixture is pale and fluffy. Next, we add the egg, honey, and vanilla and mix to combine with the butter and sugar. And to complete the dough, we're going to pour in our dry ingredients and mix together until the dough is shaggy but still able to hold together. The next step is to roll out the dough and cut out the cakes. So turn your dough onto a lightly floured surface and roll until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm using a French rolling pin as opposed to a standard one because it helps me better control the pressure exerted on the dough. To form the cakes, you can take a standard knife and use it to cut out squares of dough, roughly 3 by 3 inches. However, I'm going to use this cookie cutter because I like the look of the crimped edges better. Transfer the finished cakes onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. And now to complete the look, I'm going to score an X across the top of each cake, similar to what you see in the movies. Pop the cakes into your preheated oven for about 6 to 8 minutes until they are a light golden brown. Once you take them out, transfer them to a wire rack to cool. They'll still be a bit soft when you take them off of the baking tray. That's why it's so important to let them cool so that they can firm up and don't crumble into pieces. For those of you wondering, I was unable to procure Malorn leaves from Lothlorien, so I had to opt for banana leaf wrappings. Keep in mind, this is just my version of Lembas bread. Feel free to use the recipe, adapt it to your preferences, or go in a completely different approach. Thanks so much for watching.
How many did you eat? 4.